Tonight on the mid-year budget review statement on Monday, we'll tell you more. Also, Fitch Solutions predict a policy rate of 22% by the end of next year, adding Ghana will reach a debt deal with its external creditors by the second half of 2024. Plus, economist Dr. Ishmael Yampson describes former sanitation minister's $1 million saga as disappointing because of impact on savings culture in the country.
Yes, worries, but I was disappointed.
These and more coming up shortly. Please stay with us. I am Beverly Broom. Thanks for choosing us. Former president of the Ghana Association of Banks, Alhassan Andani, wants government to implement policies to improve the banking sector and the mid-year budget review. According to him, more confidence is needed within the financial space post the domestic debt exchange program. Hence, government and the central bank must be proactive in saving the sector. He spoke to Joy Business.
My expectation out of the mid-year review is for government to do whatever they can to build confidence around their own paper, which banks hold in large quantities and which is impacting the balance sheets of banks and also companies that have invested in this. So for me, the mid-year budget should be coming out with policies as to how government is improving its credit posture, its credit, reliability, so that people can see some regrades, of the write-downs that they have taken in terms of the defaults that we've witnessed in the last 24 months.
Now, Fitch Solutions is predicting that the Bank of Ghana would cut the policy rate by 600 basis points to 22% by the end of next year. It also believes that Ghana will reach a debt deal with its external creditors in the second half of 2024. Here's more in this report.
The UK-based firm is attributing this to the downward trend in inflation from the fourth quarter of this year. Inflation, it said, will average 17.1% in 2024 due to high base effects, mostly in the first half of 2024, and exchange rate stability. This, it believes, will put interest rates in a positive territory. Fitch Solutions also expressed optimism that Ghana will reach an agreement with its external creditors by the second half of next year. This should provide tailwinds to the exchange rate and further limit imported price pressures. It added that real GDP growth will remain well below trend on the back of fiscal consolidation efforts under the IMF program. However, the central bank will likely seek to lower interest rates to stimulate economic activity.
Now, senior finance lecturer at the University of Ghana Business School, Dr. Benjaminamo, is asking banks to support other sectors of the economy as they gradually bounce back. According to him, profitability of local banks should complement the efforts of other sectors to drive economic growth. Dr. Amo spoke to Joy Business.
It is the banks returning to profitability is simply from the DDEP. But for the DDEP, banks in Ghana have been one of the most comfortable entities when it comes to reporting in terms of profit. It is just for this DDEP. So now that we are gradually getting out of the DDEP, banks are going to go back to their pre-DDEP performance, which has been profit. Look, you can look at the bank's performance, and for almost 15, 20 years, there has not been a loss. That is what the banks normally report. So the DDEP was just a one-off event, what we call low-frequency, high-impact event that affected the banking sector. But the banks will recover, and very soon we are going to see profit level. The issue is, how does it translate into the other sectors of the economy? You see, if the banks are the ones making all the profits, but then the other sectors of the economy are not making good returns on their investment, then you also said there's a disconnect, because the banks do business with the other sectors of the economy. So how come the banks are reporting good profits and the other sectors of the economy are complaining? That is a disconnect that we need to look at and see how best we can address that. So that it's not only the banks, but then the banks together with the other sectors of the economy also report good profits going forward.
Now, economist Dr. Ishmael Yampson has described the former Minister of Sanitation's $1 million saga as disappointing. According to him, this could impact negatively on efforts to encourage more people to keep monies in the bank. Dr. Yampson adds that government should try and lead by example.
I was not just worried, but I was disappointed.
Wow.
Well, I don't want to go into
not the whole idea about...
But the whole idea of so much money sitting in somebody's home. Yeah. And I've heard so many explanations, comes from a wealthy home, blah, blah, blah. That is not the answer. But because it has been hugely politicized, yeah, we are hearing all manner. But let me tell you that for many, many, many years, Ghanaians chose to keep their monies outside the banking sector.
Why?
And yesterday or 2 days ago, I wasn't surprised that the governor expressed worry that so much money should be found in a home. Yeah. I know he was also very careful about how far he could go. About 10, 12 years ago, a great effort was made to get Ghanaians saved. The savings and loans, they did a lot to bring monies into the banking sector. The likes of UT banks and all the rest of it, particularly the Ghanaian banks. Then came the collapse of the economy. So those experiences have already shocked the confidence
in the banking
of
sector.
Individuals in the banking system. And the fund have said this clearly, that rebuilding confidence in the financial sector is going to be critical in the recovery of the economy. So, does it mean that some people have always known that there was going to be DDEP and therefore they took their money before the likes of us suffered, or what? So it is bad for Ghana, and especially if it happens that they are not ordinary people, but they are politicians, public officers. I don't know the facts, and I don't know that that's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
But the mere fact that you were a public officer,
and it appears she might not be named. Reports coming out even suggest that there are more public officials who are in that practice.
Exactly. So you are telling us, ordinary people, go and put your money in the bank. But you have decided that for some reason, you won't put your money in the Ghanaian banks.
To one of our headline stories, and in an unprecedented fashion, Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta is meeting members of Parliament to discuss the mid-year budget review set to be presented on Monday. Joy News understands the leadership of Parliament and the minister agreed to this meeting to avoid surprises on Monday. Parliamentary Affairs correspondent Kweku Asante joins us with details. Kweku, has this meeting ended and what are we learning?
Beverly, the meeting ended about 15 to 20 minutes ago. The finance minister just walked out. I actually showed the mic to him to speak to what kind of agreements he's had with members of Parliament. He did not stick to it. But we know that mainly what this meeting covered was mainly issues about statutory funds, GET fund, common fund in particular, and the finance minister's inability to release money to this statutory fund so that they can work. MPs are very concerned that they are not getting their share of the common fund to do developmental issues. And let's get into the next election, without which some of them are afraid that they may lose the next election. So that was such a big concern today that they had to discuss that. But like you said in the introduction, quite unprecedented because this is not something that we normally see. MPs are usually the last, just like all of us, to see the mid-year budget review or the budget itself. just like any other person, except perhaps the leadership on the majority side. But the finance minister tried to engage both sides to let them know that these are the kind of issues we are bringing. My understanding is that the finance minister is not committing to whether or not he will bring supplementary estimates.
Okay.
We understand that is a conversation that is still being had, and on Monday, if there's any agreement between cabinet and all those who matter in this conversation, if there are supposed to be further estimates, it will come to the floor. MPs are concerned that if the statement is to be read on Monday and you bring further estimates, it means that MPs will have to go through it, and the House is expected to rise for its break on Thursday. The concern is that there may not be enough time, and so they wanted to trash that out with the finance minister. That is the first leg having to do with further estimates. MPs are also concerned about the capping of funds, statutory funds that have been capped, and government have been using part of the funds to do other things. MPs say they expect something in this media budget review to address those concerns. Again, MPs say that they want to hear something about the IMF deal. Since it was done, some NDC MPs in particular have been asking the minister to come to the floor to brief MPs on what exactly the deal with the IMF is and how it impacts the overall country. At one point, the finance minister was expected to do so, but on that day, the minority had boycotted sitting. The finance minister himself was not on the floor. The Minister of State, Mohamed Amin Adam, represented the minister and answered questions. At the back of the order paper, some information had been provided in terms of the IMF deal. Because the minority were absent and the majority were also not in their numbers, that could not be discussed. And so it is expected to feature heavily in this new media budget review. The final point having to do with taxes. Again, no confirmation as whether or not there will be new taxes. In fact, when Parliament was resuming from its break, the majority chief whip, Frank Anodombre, made a post on Twitter to suggest that there may be some new revenue measures that were coming in. The whole of this Parliament, no such new taxes have been laid on the floor of the House. And so concerns are whether or not government will be laying new tax or revenue measures. There's also no confirmation on that. And so the meeting lasted a little close to 2 hours. Both sides believe that it was productive and they've been able to get what they expected from that. And they are all coming in on Monday to now finally hear from Finance Minister Kenneth Friata what exactly are the intricacies of the media budget review.
So what time are we expecting the minister in Parliament?
Well, so the minister is expected to brief the House at 10 a.m. on Monday. That is the normal time that this presentation will be done. In fact, it may drag on a little bit because sometimes even at 10 a.m. the minister may not have arrived. But even if he may have arrived, some backroom conversation will be had before he will come in to do this presentation. But the tentative time that has been scheduled is Monday, 10 a.m. And I've been speaking with some members of Parliament in terms of what exactly they expect of the finance minister ahead of the media budget review. If you have that instead, we can listen to some NDC MPs in particular who wants the government, the finance minister, to commit to cutting government expenditure and also to commit to giving the statutory funds all that they need to be able to do their business.
Kweku, from what we are hearing, would there be anything new with respect to the economic policy?
Can you repeat that?
From what we are hearing, would there be anything new with respect to the economic policy?
Definitely. In fact, this is the time for the finance minister to rejig the whole economy. In fact, since the IMF deal was signed, the government has not had enough time to brief the country on how this deal with the IMF is going to affect the country's current finances. We've heard from the Venerable Ishmael Yampson, who's already said that this is the worst economic crisis he has ever seen. And he is a fairly old person. And so if he's lived for 60 plus years, and this is the worst economic crisis he has seen, then governments need to reject the figures to be able to meet the current needs. And so we expect new policy announcements, policy shifts that will assure the populace that government is really on top of the situation now, and they're going to be able to change and stem the tide currently as we have it. So in terms of economic policy, much is going to change. What we cannot confirm is whether or not there will be new taxes and whether or not there will be some major shifts in terms of these policies.
So that's our parliamentary affairs correspondent, Kweku Asante, giving us details of the meeting between the finance minister and some members of the Parliament. We'll definitely bring you more on that on Monday when the minister is expected to appear in Parliament to give us the mid-year budget review. This is still Business Live on Joy News Channel with me, Beverly Broom. We go for a quick break. We'll be back with